Okay, now that we're done blaspheming.
Welcome to Pixels and Puppets, the Operation Puppet podcast, the only podcast to combine the subjects of gaming, tech, media, and puppets for no easily explainable reason. It is February 7th, 2025. You are the internet. I am Kevin Blaze. My pronouns are he, him, and this is episode 3 of season 3 of Pixels and Puppets, the Operation Puppet podcast. Joining me is my co-host. His pronouns are he, him. It's Jamie, a.k.a. Scumboy.
Why, hello.
And it's only the two of us this time, as Andrew vouchsafed previously.
Yes, he is on a boat.
Traveling the world again.
They were in the Panama Canal last I heard.
Were they really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Good timing, guys.
Yep. I mean, it's going to be the America Canal before long.
Yep.
So yeah. How are you doing?
I'm good. You good?
I had a really good experience last night.
Okay, tell me about your good experience. This is what we're gonna do now. Only tell me about good things.
We went to the Phil Hartnell DJ set.
Oh yes, you were mentioning on
the
Discord. Join the Discord.
One of the two gentlemen that make up Orbital, a UK techno band that has been operating since 1989. When they're not doing stuff as Orbital as brothers, he usually goes out and does DJ sets where he's mixing in a lot of Orbital deep cuts with other tracks. And it was a transformative experience.
Okay.
I've always loved Orbital. Like it's been scratching my electronic itch for decades. And seeing the man up there spinning it and just being into it and really feeding back off the crowd and it was just so nice. And he played some like fairly deep cuts that I love. Song off of one of the more recent albums in the 2010s called U-Lot that has dialogue from Christopher Eccleston as the second coming of Christ in a BBC short series that he's lecturing a room full of doctoral candidates about, how mankind is running around science like kids with guns, and do they really think they've got it right? It's a very good song. I love it. And him playing that and Chime and all these Orbital and other adjacent songs live, it was just so nice.
Very good.
Yeah, no, I had a great time.
I must admit, I have some affinity for electronica.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot, I will admit, and mostly through industrial.
Yes,
music, but the DJ thing, I must confess, I don't quite get.
So it's about making a set. Like
right.
you don't just throw 200 BPM at a room and walk away. It's about bringing people up. Like he started with Belfast, which is a slower, almost choral Orbital song. A lot of female, like not sung vocals, but like choral vocals.
Right.
And it's slow, it's winding, it builds, and then he brought it up into another song that was, a mid BPM, not Orbital song. So it's about making these crests and you bring people up and then you go back down again because you can't keep people at 100% the entire time. So it's
what? That's probably it. That's probably what I've been assuming. And it's not about I think it's just about getting the room dancing.
The really bad DJs are about making people's hearts explode, but the good DJs are about they bring you up and then they bring you back down again. There's an Orbital song called One Perfect Sunrise off the Blue album, which is exactly the piece you want at the end of a night. It's not super high BPM, but it is this soaring, slow build to the sun coming up over the trees And it's the perfect song to put at the end of a set like that, because it starts low, it keeps you down low, and it brings you up just enough to kind of taper off the night. So it's looking for things like that, middle bits, parts that will peak and yes, have some BPM, but then also troughs to give people a little bit of breathing space.
Right.
And also the really good ones will use these songs to tell you, tell a bit of a story. Like he was using a lot of their environmental warning songs, like Impact, The Earth is Burning, and Lush. There was a newer song where they're actually using lecture vocals of a doctor or a professor talking, and it's about how, we will end. Nature has decided there is an expiration date for the human race. It's up to us to decide how much longer we're here. And using stuff like that in the song to really kind of underscore the, things will continue on after us. It's up to us to decide how long we're here for.
Right.
But there was a lot of their songs like that woven together with other tracks and kind of highs and lows. So that's you can go to a place and any DJ will throw on 5 songs that are all around the same BPM, and it's kind of
Right.
But when you see someone he's telling a story and really kind of bringing the crowd through emotions and not just pegging everyone at 100, it's really nice.
And I'm thinking it's also about like getting people in sync.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that's why we do things like measuring music in BPM.
Yes.
And, right. That's the thing. And literally to a point that like people's heart rates will start to sync up. And
the crowd is a single organism in things like that. Like people are moving. They're not all doing the same thing. There were people at the back with the LED balls on strings doing the twirling, and people dancing, and then people just kind of moving in place, and then people who just bob their heads, but everyone's kind of a single thing. And when he puts on something that really hits, everyone reacts. And it's really interesting. The crowd is an instrument in something like that. Gotcha. Like he's not necessarily playing music, he's putting on music, and he's beat matching, and he's bringing songs together in ways that make sense. But the crowd is an instrument that he's playing, where he's bringing them up and then letting them down, and then exciting them, and then there are songs where there'll be kind of a bare middle spot, and then all of a sudden the drop hits and like the bass kicks in and everyone just loses it. So it's all right. It's definitely something to experience, especially with like songs that you have an attachment to, like Phil's catalog is decades of me playing albums like end to end, and just being able to get those songs kind of woven together by the guy who wrote them felt really special.
Right. And
it was a really really positive night. The Crystal Method was also there, but I don't have any nostalgia for them really. Like they have a couple good songs that I will listen to, like Name of the Game. That was a good song. But I couldn't name an album, and I couldn't tell you the last time I listened to a Crystal Method album. We're just like, you know what? I'm kind of emotionally drained. Yeah, I think we would just head home after Phil's set, and then it was just such a perfect night. Like it feels crystalline in my memory. It's just this perfect thing that's been slotted into me. And it was a really, really good time.
Very cool.
I hope Sloot decides to go to the show in Ottawa.
Oh, yes. I saw you guys talking about that on the Discord.
Yes.
So yeah, absolutely. Sloot. Shout out Sloot, because I know that Sloot listens to the podcast. So.
I think it's a good time. There was one of the songs. So the Orbital did a remix last year, and I didn't know, of a song called Cafe Del Mar, which is this famous trance track from Energy 52, 2 German DJs who did residencies in Ibiza, Spain. And it's about a famous bar on the beach in Ibiza called Cafe Del Mar. And they made it in 1993. And the Wikipedia page for it says notable remixes not complete, because there have been so many remixes of this song. This song is a touchstone. And the Orbital version of it was just them applying their methods and their ways of making the songs against this already existing song. So it was a sum of two parts,
right?
And it was just so nice. And I was not expecting it at all because I did not know they covered it. And just hearing that track in the middle of it was like water breaking over me. I was never expecting this to happen, and then it did, and it was just this great moment that just seemed impossible.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. See, and now I have a new appreciation of what that is.
Yeah, like
I guess I just never had that experience personally, but
you can approximate it by pulling up like a set on YouTube, and you can hear it. But when you're in the room, you're part of that matrix. It's
a different thing. Right?
They're playing off of you as part of the crowd, and you're playing off the rest of the crowd with their energy. And this is why raves were.
The comparison in my head that I'm making, and this is probably apt, is it's basically like a concept album.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like you don't listen to a track, you listen to the whole album because
it's the experience of going from the beginning to the end. And, like really good albums are ones where you don't pick a track off it and just play it. You start at the beginning and then you wind your way through it.
I've got several that are like that. Scraping Fetus Off the Wheel, Nail is one of them. And
that's another one where each individual song may not be even the best part of it. It's how all the songs fit together, because J.G. Thirlwell is not a normal human being.
No.
and really makes those songs to go together.
And along those lines, Diamond Dogs by David Bowie. And I'm pleased to say, adding on to that list is A Gradual Decay in Morale by Kim Dracula. That album is a single piece.
Yeah.
And it really should be experienced as one thing because it has these peaks and valleys and you respond to it. It's like, so yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it.
It's a good way of putting it is that, any piece taken separately is good. But when experienced as a whole, it's something more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay, cool. There you go. There's your music theory lesson.
There you go.
The introduction of the Puppet Podcast. Yeah. Okay, cool. So with that in mind, we are going to take a non-actual break, and we will be back with the Puppet Pit.
You have entered an alternate dimension, a dimension of fleece and fur, of foam and industrial adhesives, so I hope you have good ventilation. A signpost up ahead. Watch your step. You have just stumbled into the Puppet Pit.
Welcome to the Puppet Pit, where we talk about the puppet side of Operation Puppet for the last 2 weeks. And it's been only 2 puppets.
Yes.
But there's a reason for that, because I think I may have talked about it on the last podcast. The week before this week was a very strange kind of I'd already done all the builds.
Yeah,
for the month. It was a spare kind of flex week.
Your month kind of ended and you had some space.
I didn't realize that when I planned out the builds for the month. So I'm like, well, I got like a week that I can just mess around. So I did. I just messed around and I looked at the stuff I had. So the build streams have been continuing.
They
past
have
2 weeks. 2 weeks in a row.
To great success.
Yeah, they've been well attended. We've got new people. It's all good. I'm very pleased with how the build streams are going. Our regulars always show up. It's kind of amazing. Every time I gaze over and I actually see a double-digit number there, it's like, oh, okay, people are actually watching this. And then I remind myself to not be nervous because, I've done this a few times now. I'm fine, but every now and then you get that little stage fright kind of a thing, right? And it's like, okay, the pressure's on, and now
Thursdays have been working well too.
Thursdays have been working well, just because, as we talked about before, that's the stage at which I'm usually at the end of the build. Now, the problem with the past 2 build streams has been that I've been at exactly the same point on the last 2 builds. Both times I've streamed, so we've seen exactly the same thing twice in a row, which is not great, but it's fine. Because we also get to chat and throw ideas around, but the point is that with the thing that I did over with that flex week and now with this first week of the month, is I've done a new model on the shop that I think is going to go well, and I really, really like them. And they are, in fact, your bog standard gray aliens.
They look fantastic.
I've been planning on doing this type of thing for a while. Literally ever since I designed the Nurney, which was what stirred all this, because Mr. Chansey had requested the Nurney as the next build on the Discord, join the Discord. And so I went, well, okay, yeah, no, I absolutely, we can do Nurney. But first time I made it was very early in my design career. And I didn't quite know what I was going to get when I did the pattern. It was one of those freehand kind of, my intention was to make a kind of cone head Bert style thing. And it got there in the not in the profile, but in like the face on kind of way it got there. But in the profile, it was kind of more of an egghead kind of a shape. And so it didn't quite get where I wanted it to, but I liked what it became regardless. So I just turned it into the Nurney. And then I realized, this would make a really good alien. So I had always intended to do an alien version of the Nurney. I just never got around to it. And then when Mr. Chansey suggested it, I was like, okay, now's the time, because I got this spare week. I can just kind of mess around and do whatever. Looked at the materials I had. Yeah, I got lots of gray fleece. We can do this. So that's what we did last week. And now that I've got the 3D printer, of course, doing the eyes was
super easy.
Like not a problem. I already had the right shape and the whole the threaded rod removable eye style and I just printed it in black. And there we go. So we did the eyelids. Was basically the majority of both of the last two streams was just doing the eyelids. Now the other interesting part of the build we did this week, which was another alien. Now I wasn't planning on doing another alien, but when I did the Nurney version of the alien, I liked it so much that I'm like, all right, I want to do this again.
I really like the head shape on the second alien.
It's very pleasing. And here's the interesting story behind that, was that was one of the discarded prototypes of the Nosferatu.
Oh, really?
And as I was building the Nosferatu, I had first prototyped using a 3D printed form.
Yes.
And which was very small scale. And what I found was, as I scaled it up, the head got too wide,
kind of balloon shaped.
Yeah. So then I started like altering it to get it where I wanted to. Now the one that I ended up using for the alien was one of the mid steps to getting where I wanted the Nosferatu. But as I was making them, I've still got another one that's a different shape. It's a much more like broad, wider balloon shape that will also make a good alien.
The second one was a very pleasing bulbosity.
It is. There is a pleasing bulbosity. So the Nurney style is more of a cone head.
Yeah.
And this one is the opposite. This is an egghead shape. But there is something about the flow of the line between the head and the little round belly. Yep. There's just something very pleasing about it. And I really, really liked how it turned out.
It's real good.
And they're very simple. And that's, that's my things. I really love
I like that you chose to do the unstuffed arms.
Oh, and that's the other thing. And I was thinking about how to do the arms. It's like, what am I going to do with this? So rather than when I do arms normally, what I'll do is I'll stuff fiberfill, which is like teddy bear stuffing.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of make a discrete bicep and a forearm.
Yeah.
This time I was like, well, dude, that's not an alien. It wouldn't look like it. So what I did was I just cut a long strip of foam with no joint in it. There's no joint at all. There's no elbow. So it's just this noodle arm, right? It just kind of curves. It doesn't actually bend in an angle. It just twists around, and it's very noodly and floppy.
Perfect.
And it works really well.
All the aliens are they have very wasted limbs.
Yes, they're very wiggly.
Yes.
And I remember, like, as a kid watching Close Encounters of the Third Kind for the very first time in the theater. That's how old I am. And at the very end of the film, when spoilers alert, I guess for like a 40-year-old film.
Yeah.
So you actually see the aliens at the end of the film, and the first one that comes out freaked my shit out. And it was just because it was kind of a standard alien guy.
Kind of gray alien.
The arms
Yeah.
were these remarkably, like, freakishly long arms. And as a kid, nothing else in the film disturbed me like just the look of that alien holding out its arms that were like 20 feet long. And I'm like, what is that? And then there are these other aliens, these little childlike aliens that come out, and they've got the really rubbery fingers.
Yeah.
There was a whole thing. But there is a kind of vibe, a rubbery vibe with the alien thing. So yeah, anyway, they went up today. There's 2 aliens now on the shop at operationpuppet.com.
I'm petitioning to call the model Coosbanes. If that's stuck in legal hell, you should call them Mulders from the X-Files.
Again, legally thorny, I would suspect, but we'll see. I'm just calling them aliens right now. I call them like floppy armed aliens or something like that. So
they're real good.
Yeah, I like them a lot. There's going to be more. There's definitely going to be more. And like one of the challenges with them is going to be like, what kind of variations can I do? Because there is a very standard form for that kind of character. And it's like, there's not a lot of room to wiggle in there, right?
Well, I mean, there's always the guy from the cantina who's wearing the orange jumpsuit.
There is that.
Glittery red eyes.
This is one of the things that we got into on the build stream, actually, was like somebody obviously, and I was ready for this because thank God I was, asked me, like, do you believe in aliens? So I kind of had to say, well, okay, no, not as a physical reality, but I have actually, I spent a big chunk of my time in my youth being very interested in the UFO phenomenon and doing a lot of reading.
In between being interested in Aleister Crowley and the Masons?
They kind of all intersected. You could thank Robert Anton Wilson for this.
Yes.
Who I actually did meet when he was alive. These things all kind of converge at a certain point. This was pre-fucking internet.
Yeah, well, I mean, this would have been Coast to Coast with Art Bell.
This is
taking calls from people who swore they saw.
Era. Yeah. And I, obviously being a scientifically minded person, I always kind of kept it at a bit of a distance and tried to look at it objectively. But I also understand how you can get swept up in something like that. And
people need to ask themselves, what is it about the human digestive systems that aliens would just be so interested in?
I just want to send Whitley Strieber a link to my my shop right now. Let me tell you. Oh, the cover of Communion did things to my subconscious, but. So no, I do not, for the record, if there has to be a record, no, I do not believe in the physical reality of aliens. However, I do not also think that everybody who thinks that they've had an alien encounter or have been abducted by aliens is necessarily either lying or delusional. Sometimes they're one or both. But the researcher Jacques Vallée is the person that kind of landed on as being the most interesting one in the field, in that this is so far away from puppets. I'm just kind of realizing.
No, it's not. The alien puppets.
I mean alien puppets, so I should probably talk about the alien thing.
The experience.
Jacques Vallée, and this is one of the things that Robert Anton Wilson pointed out in The Cosmic Trigger, was that the experience that people talk about with aliens in modern times is the ancient equivalent of like a shamanistic experience.
Or angels.
Yeah, or angels. Or exactly.
Yeah.
It's basically a religious experience that we've just filtered through this kind of technological lens. And one of the ways, I'm going to wrap this around, one of the ways that we can see that is the fact that when the UFO phenomenon started quote unquote, in and around the 50s.
Yeah.
This is, photography had suddenly taken off. We have aircraft.
Jet aircraft.
Yeah, exactly.
Like biplanes move at a predictable speed. Jet aircraft moves a lot faster, especially with like testing the X1, the Bell X1, like going faster and faster. People who are used to horses and then the Model T can't necessarily process something like a jet.
Yeah. But when you read the first quote unquote encounters with aliens, the description of the aliens are all over the shop. They're just everything you could possibly imagine is described. And over time,
they kind of codified.
Yeah, we kind of settled on this form. And it's not until like the 80s that we get to the gray alien with the big black eyes that we all know when we look at it's a fucking emoji even, like that form didn't really come about until the 80s. And now all of a sudden everybody's decided this is what aliens look like.
You know, the standard UFO sighting in the 60s was the delta, like the triangle that hung in the air and then took off faster than anybody could possibly imagine. That was them testing the Blackbird. That was the Delta Wing aircraft that was flying at sub-Mach speeds that looks like it's stationary, lighting the afterburners and leaving. So it was, a lot of it is military testing aircraft that aren't even on balance sheets. Like the Black Ops testing stuff was at night, generally over the Midwest, and generally doing things you don't think planes should be able to do. So that was a lot of the sighting stuff, was all these, like the SR-71 and the Nighthawk, the F-11-7A.
There's a very interesting documentary and book called Mirage Men that is specifically about the kind of U.S. government involvement with the whole UFO thing, but not from the angle you might think. It's
encouraging it to kind of cover up.
Basically, they're going like, yeah, sure, we'll,
I could see the Men in Black being an official thing to kind of stoke. It is just a smokescreen to cover up the actual heinous shit that they were doing. Anyway, this is a long way of saying that, yes, the reason that we have settled on this design form, I believe, is a cultural one. And because of that, it's very interesting. And somebody on the Bill stream was saying that they're a little bit disturbed by the form of the gray alien. And I think that is really interesting. That's the human mind is kind of sharpened this familiar but not shape. Even the color, like a gray, like gray is dead things. Gray like you're not expecting that.
I mean, the proportions are of a human fetus.
Yeah, basically.
That is exactly it, right? That's the thing. There's a lot of Jungian stuff going on.
I wonder if the development of seeing them as gray aliens and the development of ultrasound viewing of fetuses are analogous. Like they happen around the same time, where they start codifying aliens and making them into this kind of large fetus.
It wouldn't surprise me if there was some kind of.
Okay, we're a conspiracy theory podcast now. We're Andrew's not here to keep us on the rails,
but it's the opposite.
This is really interesting. But this is like an interesting mental experiment. Thinking so in the 50s/60s is when you start seeing a trend towards the gray aliens, and was this when more people had access to ultrasounds to see what was happening inside a human body during pregnancy?
Well, it's both the form of the human fetus, but it's also just a skull.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And that's the other thing. And I think that's the thing. And also the fact that the eyes are insectoid. This we did talk about on the Bill stream a little bit. The insectoid quality is something, and there's a reason why humans, by and large, are squicked out by insects. And it's because they are literally the exact opposite of us.
Well, you can't read anything in an insect's eyes.
Endoskeleton versus exoskeleton. Our mouths go up and down. Their mouths go side to side. Everything about them is the opposite of us. And because of that, we cannot empathize with them.
But like you mentioned that they look like a skull. The number of things that are misinterpreted from skulls, like the Cyclops was a elephant skull.
Yep.
People thought there was a giant thing with one eye, and it's just because the nasal cavity of the elephant is so large and the eye cavities are so small. They saw one large eye and a lot of teeth, and they're like, what the hell is that?
Clearly.
It's just so neat how we look at, if you look at something with no skin on, like you wouldn't, if you saw a hippopotamus skeleton, you would not design a hippopotamus.
Nope.
It would be this thin rictus destroying thing and not this giant marshmallow with giant teeth. So it's just how you extrapolate from seeing skulls of things.
We're wired for pattern recognition,
Yeah.
pareidolia, all that stuff, right? So yeah, I think the alien design is really fascinating from a cultural standpoint.
Absolutely.
So
well, I hadn't
that's-
thought about a lot of what was happening at the time that this image was coming up, that socially we would start building these features into these encounters.
This is why it's nice to have a background in history as well as other things, because then you can start contextualizing things and you can start looking at things that evolve over time. And this is one of them. This is this form of the alien is not old. we have settled on this, but it has changed over time.
But prior to this, it was it looked like an orange mop with 1,000 legs, and
there's 1,000 descriptions of everything all over the map.
we watch like the old Disney Tomorrowland cartoons, and all the Martian designs are like geometric and like hundreds of legs and stuff like this, where they were postulating what could possibly live on these planets. And then, a decade later, now it's gray aliens.
If it was weird, it was alien.
Yeah.
That's what it came down to. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the long way of saying there's new puppets on the shop.
And if you'd like to hear more about us talking about things like this, not necessarily agreeing with them, but just discussing them.
We could do a whole anthropology thing, man. I got stuff, man. We can talk. But anyway, that's kind of it for the puppet pit. Where we go next, I've already got the builds planned out for the rest of the month.
You were saying at the end of the stream that it's going to be kind of an ambitious 2 weeks.
It is going to be a bit ambitious. I've got I got 2 Greeblies and a small planned for next week, which should be fine, but we'll see. I got dental stuff again next week, so we'll see how that goes. But however, as I did talk about at the end of the build stream, because I knew it wasn't going to, I had got so far into the alien on by the time we hit Thursday that I literally had nothing in the back half of the build stream, and I knew it wasn't going to take long to do what we had to do. So. And then I was watching a video by one of my favorite YouTubers, Lindsay Nicole, who has a fantastic YouTube channel all about zoology and the history of life and evolution and all that kind of stuff. And she's very entertaining. She's a metalhead, and she has a very deadpan kind of delivery. And like when an animal is just wrong and weird, she'll just lay into it and just go. And she's very, very entertaining. And I love Lindsay a lot. I want her merch. She's got some very good merch.
Nice.
There's a period of mass extinction called the Great Dying. And she's done that as a piece of her merch, but as like a metal t-shirt.
Nice.
Right? It's called the Great Dying. It's so good. Anyway. But she had mentioned an animal just in passing on one of her videos, and I don't know why I never thought of this before. So I did talk about this in the build stream, but we'll talk about it here because it's the puppet pit. That's what it's for.
It might end up as a puppet.
So you all know that I do monsters. That's my thing. I'm the monster maker. I do humans, but only occasionally. Monsters are my thing, and I've never done really, other than Mississippi, the alligator. I've never really done real world animals.
Yeah,
and I have had the occasional request for them, but I've kind of had to go. It's not really my thing. It's not what I do. But for various reasons, I've got and have access to some brown fur. And I don't really know what to do with it because your average puppet monster isn't brown, right? It's something other than brown, often blue.
Yes.
Thank you, Sesame Street. But so I'm like, what am I going to do with this brown fur? And then Lindsay Nicole mentioned this animal, and I for some reason I never even thought of this, and it's my absolute favorite animal in the entire world.
It's a good animal.
We looked at pictures of it on the build stream, and that was how I closed the last build stream. It is the ii.
Yes.
The ii is a lemur in Madagascar, which is where all
lemurs are from Madagascar. Madagascar is like Australia, in which if you want weird marsupials, it's the one-stop shop.
Yep. But they are the real world equivalent of a goblin.
Yes.
Like if there was ever any animal that was a goblin, this is a goblin. So they look perpetually frightened.
Look at the giant yellow eyes.
Yeah.
They're extremely nocturnal.
But their whole deal is this finger. So they have these very bony human-like hands because they're not marsupials, lemurs.
Yes.
They're primates. But their middle finger is this like 4 times longer than every other finger.
The most interesting evolutionary trait.
Yeah.
Like they instead of going the anteater route of making a very long snout to get down ant burrows, they have made their own movable stick out of their own hands in order to reach down and pull out their sweet treats from inside.
They don't need to be tool users. They've got one built into their hand.
Literally, they have specialized evolutionarily to getting ants out of crevices and holes.
And they do the woodpecker thing of like tapping on the bark.
Oh, to find out where the voids are.
And they're very disturbing looking.
The hands are bad, but don't sell down the fact that they look like steel wool with ears.
Yes, true.
They are not like if you imagine a pleasant animal. The eye isn't it.
Yeah, no, it is. It's all kinds of wrong.
It's like what fell out of the lemur evolutionary tree. Because other lemurs, they've got nice fur. They've got the ringtails. They're hop around. They're presentable.
You know what it is?
It's the guy you don't invite to dinner.
It's if you gave a teddy bear the one ring.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And just let him keep it
or
for
a
a while.
lemur.
And he turned into Gollum.
It's
That's
lemur
what they are.
Gollum. Yeah.
So I think that will be it. I think I have to make eye puppets because I can do this.
I'm pushing for cryptids so you can start using brown fur to make Sasquatch.
You know, I start with aliens, and now we're going to go into cryptids. I'm going to get a whole new clientele,
and then we can cover an episode on cryptids. We can talk about the jackalope, Piltdown Man,
Oh, man.
the Jersey Devil.
Look, I love the Jersey Devil. Are you kidding me?
Chupacabras. This is a
Oh, fuck. I could do a chupacabra.
this is a thick vein of puppet. You could have chupacabras. You could have Sasquatches. You could have Jersey Devils. Mothman.
You're listening to this, people. You know what he's doing to me right now. Because he's right. That pisses me off.
Just like you could small jackalope. Little 3D printed antlers, a little bunny nose and teeth.
Here's the thing that I'm worried about with the eye. Mm-hmm. You know how puppet makers hate making hands.
Oh, well, it's
Look
hands.
at what I've done to myself.
Well, I mean, it's almost if you make it a small, you could just make a little kind of skeletal hand. But if you made it a puppet, like an actual puppet,
a rod puppet,
you could have creepy middle finger mechanics.
This is the challenge with the eye. It's like, how can you make an eye and not do that finger justice? You have to, but in order to do that finger justice, you need a mech.
Yeah, and you don't want it to start flipping backwards. You wanted to do the...
That's actually not very difficult. The mech to do that is relatively straightforward. However, it's always the challenge with mechs that, like, if I was doing this for a TV set or a film, no problem. Because I'm doing this for the general public, it needs to be super strong, super robust.
Yeah,
and
quiet,
not
cheap,
break.
reliable. Pick one.
Yeah, exactly. So that TBA is where we're at with the eye, but it's coming.
It is such...
Oh, no.
I would say... maybe start broad strokes on a small, like, and maybe have like either a floppy arm, but just kind of get the features like those yellow eyes and the ears and the wiry hair.
I think one of the challenges with the eye, other than the hands, is going to be literally the body form, because they have this almost hunchback quality to them. So they're not vertical like most puppets, like a Kermit is kind of vertical.
Yeah.
They're really horizontal. And they have a really long, bushy tail too.
Yeah.
And I want to get all of these in. So the body to head placement is going to be really interesting, and how you actually put your hand in the puppet is going to be different than anything I've done before. So it's going to be a challenge. I have no idea when it's going to happen. It's going to take a lot of prototyping. But once we get there, I think it'll be good. So.
So that and then cryptids. I'm really pushing for cryptids.
Jeez, it's good.
Aliens are a gateway to cryptids.
It's true. You're not wrong. Oh, okay. Well, stay tuned, I guess, because there could be a whole new future Operation Puppet on the Art Bell Show.
That's right.
Literally, Whitley Strieber is currently doing a show that's basically the equivalent of the Art Bell Show right now.
God bless Art Bell for giving lonely truckers a place to call in for attention.
If you had too much amphetamines, we know where you should go.
Oh, I just drove by Area 51 and it was on fire.
Okay, well, on that extremely strange note,
yes,
we are going to take an actual break, and we will be back with Gizmo Town.
The sky above the port was the color of a YouTube video hit with a copyright takedown. Around the rainy streets, people huddled with neon umbrellas and impractical goggles. Here we fight the corporate arcologies and get excited about phones. Welcome to the mean streets of Gizmo Town.
I think it's a first.
It's not. I'm saving us at the last minute.
I thought we were going to. So, welcome to Gizmo Town, where we talk about tech and all things related to tech, starting as always with the Deck Nook, which I thought was going to be empty.
It was empty. Today, I got a notification from the Ein Discord, the people who do the Odin and other handhelds of that nature, that they are halting all shipments to the USA because of the additional tariffs.
Oh, dear.
So if you want an Ein Odin and live in the US, you are not going to be able to get one.
Wow.
And this is going to be an increasing thing with things like the Ein Odin, any of the other Chinese handheld Ambernicks are probably going to close the door.
Everything.
Well, I mean, everything eventually, but especially like the consumer products that people have been picking up from like the Mayu Minis and the Retroid Pockets and things like that. All of those things are drop shipped from China to your door in 6 to 8 weeks, or your money will still be in a bank account somewhere in China. But I think a lot of them are, and Ain's the first ones I've seen officially announce that they're going to cease shipping to the U.S. because of the additional tariffs that have been added.
I think it was today that they announced that there's been a pause on that.
The actual Chinese one, the one that they started on this last week?
Yeah.
Well, they need to do that, but I think a lot of people are, like, I know a lot of Canadian things are going forward like this is not solved.
Oh, yeah.
And I think a lot of companies are going to continue operating as this is probably just a short reprieve, and we're going to keep these
just think about
methods in place.
Why would you, when everything is so volatile?
Yep.
Right? Like why would you even risk it?
It doesn't make for good business, go figure.
Golly, it's almost like certain presidents who shall remain nameless aren't actually good businessmen.
But I mean, like, goods come from China.
Yeah,
yet you're going to throw tariffs on the goods that you're buying from China.
As I said on the build stream of all places, I think the rude awakening that the States is about to receive is going to be of just how much it consumes versus how much it provides.
I mean, those tariffs are going to be applied to the people in the States buying things.
Yeah.
So the people in China are going to go, oh, I guess it's just going to cost us more to send stuff to the States. They're either going to pass the money on to the end user or stop shipping them entirely.
Yep.
Which is things we're starting to see now.
And then we'll see black markets spring up and smuggling rings. And
that's people will be paying Canadians to buy them handhelds.
The last time this happened, at least we had the fucking jazz age. And and we had awesome new music and fashion, and we don't have either of that.
But there was also
anymore.
bathtub gin, and people went blind.
True. So there was a downside.
I mean, all they could get Al Capone on was his taxes.
Yes, you see?
Yep.
See?
But I think Fats Waller had a bad time with that, so I'd rather keep the jazzmen out of the hands of the handheld gaming running cartels.
That's fair. But yeah, okay, wow.
So the door is closing, and I think more people are going to be following.
So what you're saying is those of us in Canada can still get it.
Yes, if you are Canadian or Mexican or South American, you can order it.
I'm not laughing. You're laughing.
I wonder if people are going to start setting up, because you know how there are the shipping houses in the States where you can order stuff to them on the cheap U.S. shipping and then get it repackaged to Canada.
Yeah, but who is not going to be subject to the tariffs? Like if it comes from outside the U.S.
But I'm wondering if they're going to set up something in Canada where they ship their device to Canada, and then if Canada doesn't have the thing, they just.
But that's the point, right? If Canada doesn't, but they will.
Yeah.
Like or there's always going to be a threat that they will.
Yeah.
So who would bother, right? Like.
Yeah. No, it's messed up.
It is messed up, and on almost funny way, at least if you're not American. My apologies to our American listeners. I know there's at least a few of you. So.
This is it's rough.
I swear, I'm not actually laughing at your expense. This just sucks for everybody, but
it's always been bad being Canadian getting stuff adjacent to America, because Americans generally get the best prices on everything, and then we end up having to pay the markups and the reshipments and whatnot. So
this is the thing, like the markets, quote unquote, they'll adjust.
Yeah.
Like new deals will be made, new connections will be made.
Well, they're already talking about getting rid of a lot of the barriers for interprovincial stuff, because it's easier to ship your product from Alberta to the States than it is to go from Alberta to Ontario.
Right.
And they're already talking about disassembling a lot of that to help ease the loss of a market by opening up the rest of the country without having to go through 300 hoops to move your hooch from province to province.
Yep.
So, I mean, it in one way, it's helping us defuck our system and make it so that we can sell to other Canadians easier.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are benefits to this happening, because that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
One of the things I talked about on the Bill stream was the fact that, like, up until now it has been a struggle the past couple of years for me to order fur.
Yeah.
Because the only place I could really get the fur that I needed from was Fabric Empire, which is in California.
Yeah.
That's absolutely not an option. Like, it was already, I could literally go from like a $200 order becomes a $600 order by the time it hits my door.
Yeah.
That's not an option anymore. Like, it's just not. So now I am looking at ways, like through Alibaba and stuff, of being able to order directly from China the stuff that I need to build the puppets. And I'm a small, super, super duper, minusculely small business.
I'm sure you'll see savings.
No doubt. I mean, it'll take forever to get here, but whatever. Like, as long as it gets here eventually, that's fine. But this is where we are. Like, this is the world that we're making for ourselves.
It's
well done.
It's a hell of a thing.
Yeah. So anyway, this will go for doubly for electronics. I mean, we will see what happens next, because wow. The thing is, of course, the current administration is doing everything they can to line their own pockets.
Yes.
So I have no doubt deals will get made.
Well, if you introduce tariffs, automatically things spin up in the States to make the things that you tariffed.
Yeah.
This isn't the case, but that's what they seem to think is going to happen.
But also,
manufacturing is going to return overnight to the United States.
It's not just that. It's that, like, there will be other deals that will be like, okay, Nvidia isn't subject to these tariffs, so the video card prices won't go up. That kind of.
But
thing.
everyone else is going to be affected by the
as
chip.
long as Jensen contributes to the Trump fund, like that's what's going to happen.
But it'll be
it's fucking shakedown. It's just protection money. It's all it is.
but I'm sure it's gonna shore up relations between like Canada and the Pacifics and Canada and the EU.
This is the thing that it is, or at least we'll eventually settle on, is like we're just out of necessity we're going to have to make other arrangements.
Diversify.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But speaking of diversification, segue. I don't know.
Let's get out of this deck nook.
Please get me out of the deck nook. Will there be a Steam console? ?
So this has been everywhere.
Yeah.
And like the niche places picked it up at first, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then bigger places started picking it up, and now like larger gaming publications are running with this. Will there be a Steam console? This is based on.
Sorry, to cut you short. My favorite response was from I think it was Linux Gaming. It was like, no.
It's based on the upstream changes on SteamOS where they're adding support for RDNA 4 graphics cards, which aren't going to be in handheld units for years. So it's not if it's future proofing, it's future proofing way ahead of time.
But this is specifically for handhelds.
No, this is for desktop GPUs. The RDNA 4 stuff is only going to be.
As somebody who is currently running Linux on the desktop, let me tell you, yes, please get ahead of that stuff.
Yes, but this is going to SteamOS for the desktop graphics cards, and it's not going to be for system on a chips or the various AMD.
Gotcha.
Laptop processors that go into the handhelds just yet. This is the desktop mainline stuff, and everyone's like, is this going to be for a console? I think it's more for, is this going to be for a Steam machine similar kind of launch? Or just even a desktop version, because you're going to need to support desktop GPUs. I don't think they're going to consoleize it. They might try the Steam machines again, but that's just a PC that boots into big picture.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't call that a console because there are different targets. It's not like every Steam machine is going to be this CPU, this GPU, and this, disk space. So I don't think it's going to be a console.
I would be very, very surprised. In fact, I think the thing I saw from Gaming on Linux was that basically this is just an update to the Mesa drivers.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And so like you could make the claim or the assertion that, is Steam working on a new Steam machine? Every time a developer updates a Mesa driver. They just don't understand what a Mesa driver is. Yeah. That's the problem.
It's it would be interesting if they did.
Yeah.
Because
it's also kind of not necessary. Like if you want a box to sit on your desktop and run SteamOS, you can do that.
Or just dock your Steam Deck.
Or Bazite, or like anything. There's so many options now.
But having maybe a more powerful target than the Steam Deck, but that is a static target for new games? ? Like God of War. Maybe it's a target that new Sony games would run well on it. Because you have to corrupt the experience quite a lot to run those things in the Steam Deck, and then scaling that up to a 4K 60-inch television wouldn't be great.
General future proofing is not really anything. It's just smart, and it's just what you do.
But just conceptually, I think a hard target of a console that would run similar to an Xbox Series or PS5 Pro, but is running Linux and can play your Steam library would be very interesting, especially coupled with the potential new Steam controller.
Right.
Which gives you a lot of the Steam Deck functionality or the original Steam controller functionality on something like a consoleized Linux.
Yeah,
machine.
I am into that. I am totally into that.
That would be very interesting.
Day one, I will order that for sure.
But yeah, no, I don't. I think it's it's either slow news day or a lot of wishful thinking.
Interesting if it is wishful thinking though, because it does mean people are wishing for it.
Yeah,
So-
no, I mean, I think everyone's decided that the Xbox isn't going to do anything this generation, and that the PS5 gets to run away with it. Having something come in like that to shake it up, where it may not, fit into normal console drop times, and just be a general shake-up of the system. I think that would be great.
Especially since like Sony has eventually gone, okay, we will
Release some
after
stuff.
a year of
Yeah,
exclusive whatever releases. So it's like as long as you're patient, you'll still be able to play whatever you want to play.
Yeah.
To a degree, of course, we still got things like Apex Legends and GTA and all the ones that are like, or in Destiny that are like, well, you can't play this because it's Proton.
Well, the other thing is a lot of those are you can't play this because we use kernel level anti-cheat, and that's going away at some point. So they will have to figure their shit out.
Yeah.
And I mean, Tim Epic is just, he won't do anything because people want him to do it. So that's the reason he keeps pumping money into the Epic Game Store. But yeah, I mean, it would be a very interesting move, but I don't see Valve getting to that level of hardware.
No, I don't think so. And I also don't think they won't do it because there's no reason to you can still do that.
Yeah.
That's my point. I think my guess is, again, this is just a guess, that they're going to stay focused on the Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Because there you get everything.
Yeah.
Particularly since it's dockable. You can just turn that into your console, right? You just plug it in, boom, there you go. Now it's a console.
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect. They can hit a perfect target as long as they focus.
Yep.
And I think that's
Yeah,
probably
it wouldn't
where
make
they're
sense to
thinking.
dilute that.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go. Hey, what do you know? We did it.
Yeah, we figured it out.
Okay. So, a couple of Fediverse related things.
We love the Fediverse.
We do love the Fediverse. Here around Operation Puppet, we love the Fediverse. And because we love the Fediverse, first thing is a shout out to somebody who's only recently come into my orbit of awareness, but I very much appreciate what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Elena Rossini is a filmmaker.
Related to Isabella Rossini? No, that's Rossellini.
That's Rossellini.
Okay.
Sounds slightly the same.
Yes.
Spelled completely different.
Yes.
No, definitely, I don't believe any relation at all. She is a filmmaker. Her most widely known film is called The Illusionists.
Oh, okay.
Which is about like the global beauty industry and how it affects
Interesting.
the sort of self-image of young women.
Yes.
And so she's a filmmaker who's about like diversity and talking about like social justice issues and that kind of thing. She has fully embraced the Fediverse as her personal coping mechanism for dealing with the kind of, the inshittification tech oligarch thing that we're having right now. And so she taught herself Linux. She's doing self-hosting stuff. She's going on the journey that I went on like, a year ago.
Yeah.
But she's kind of doing it in real time. And she's blogging about it. She started her own blog, and The Future is Federated is her thing. She's very inspiring, and she's very focused on this and very passionate about it and very articulate about it. And I very much appreciate what she's doing because she's doing it kind of in real time as she discovers it and talking about her experiences with it and the positives and negatives about it. I very much appreciate what she's doing, and at least, if not in practice, in theory, this is definitely a way forward. I wouldn't say it's the way forward, but the approach that she's taking to it is inspiring.
Yeah.
And I think this is exactly what has motivated me to investigate all this stuff. And it's really resonated with what I've been doing. So shout out to Elena Rossini. I'm following her on Mastodon.
Nice.
Link in the show notes, of course. But yeah, and she's currently working on a short film. I don't know if it's a short film or possibly a feature length, which is what The Illusionist was, about the Fediverse.
Nice.
About like what this means, why it's important and all that kind of stuff. She's just started at the editing process for that. So
that's neat.
That's really cool. You love to see it.
Yeah.
So that's super, super cool. And speaking of the Fediverse,
While we're on the topic,
while we're talking about it, for some reason it's in the news. A while ago, and I must have talked about this in the podcast, although forgive me, I do not remember, that we used to have Owncast
Yes.
in the mix of live streaming stuff. And at some point I had to consolidate a bunch of domains and decide what I needed and what I didn't need. Literally a financial choice.
yeah.
Because wow, the prices went up. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
And so one of the domains I had to drop was the domain of the Owncast server. And because PeerTube has a robust live streaming option on it, I kind of didn't need the because Owncast is only live streaming.
Yeah.
Right. So what I would be doing was I was like, live streaming to Owncast and then putting up the VOD on PeerTube. Now, PeerTube has live streaming and a chat room.
And it will archive.
And it auto archives just like YouTube.
So would you have to
does.
record locally the stream as well,
Yes.
and then upload that to PeerTube at the end?
Exactly.
Oof,
Yeah. So it was one step more than I kind of needed to do. And because of that, plus the added domain was like, okay, if anything has to go, it's going to be Owncast, which I regretted because like I really like Owncast. It's got a good vibe. It's got a good community. And it was a hard decision to make to drop Owncast. Well, one of the problems, of course, with running Owncast, so I'm running, I'm going to Twitch, YouTube, PeerTube, and Owncast.
Yeah.
There's 4 destinations. 2 of those destinations, I can consolidate the chat through Restream.io.
Yep.
PeerTube has its own chat system through a plugin.
Yep.
Owncast also has its own chat system that is completely separate and will never be touched by anything else. It's a whole other animal.
Yeah.
And you cannot consolidate all of these things. And that was a problem, of course, because
You had to monitor 3 chats.
I had to monitor 3 different chat windows and try and relay the messages back and forth.
Yeah.
I could have put them on screen, but then there would be 3 different screens. It was a mess.
Yeah.
2 is fine. 2 is where we're currently sitting with PeerTube and Restream.
Restream, yeah.
3 was just too many. However, a popular Owncast streamer, Mr. Funk E-Dude, pointed out to me when I posted about this on Mastodon that there is a tool called Social Stream Ninja that will do exactly what I want it to do. It will take whatever chat window you've got popped out, grab its output, stick that in a single timeline, and I can just put that as an overlay on the stream, and it will consolidate everything. And it supports Twitch, YouTube, PeerTube, Owncast, you name it, it supports it.
Nice.
I haven't checked it out personally yet, but I watched some videos about it. It looks very, very promising. So it's entirely possible and highly likely that the Owncast server is coming back.
Okay.
I'm not sure what URL yet. I mean, it'll just be a subdomain of either. I'm probably going to go Pixels and Puppets, just because this is the other thing with it. Before it was just the Operation Puppet. It was OperationPuppet.live was the URL. But now that we've kind of separated out the Operation Puppet, the strictly Puppet stuff from the Pixels and Puppet stuff, it's like, what do I do with the Owncast server then? Right?
Yeah.
It's like, what's that going to be? So I'm thinking I will probably put that as a subdomain of pixelsandpuppets.com, just because I would want that to be just like everything.
Yeah.
Right. I would want it to be both the build streams and whatever we're doing with Pixels and Puppets. Just that it all goes there. And that kind of makes sense in context of all that.
Yeah.
So it'll probably end up being a subdomain of Pixels and Puppets, probably like, owncast.pixelsandpuppets.com, that kind of thing. But I got to test out this chat amalgamation app. And if that works out, there's absolutely no reason why I can't jump back into the Owncast.
It's too bad it can't dump it back into the Restream chat. And then you can keep it off the screen.
It really is. I would like to keep it off the screen.
Because you never know what's going to come through.
This was always my reasoning for not having it as an overlay on the screen was because, like, at some point we may get some mega troll in there because I'm, a vocal supporter of
or even a
people.
Problematic bot.
Yeah, we've had a couple of bots, but it's never really been a problem.
Yeah.
So I'm treating it as if it's not a problem until it's a problem.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way to do that. Also, people deal with this stuff all the time. There are ways. The only thing I was really kind of saving was if we ever did get a troll or a problem bot in the chat, I would then have to go and edit the VOD to blur it or whatever, because if there was profane language or whatever, I just didn't want in the chat. I didn't want to broadcast that or have that on the VOD. So I would have to blur it or something. But that's really quite minor in the end, and probably isn't going to be a problem. So, let's do it. We'll just do it. And that way everybody can see the chat.
Yeah.
You don't have to monitor a separate chat. That's another, that is actually kind of a quality of life thing for the viewer.
Absolutely.
Right? When you can just watch the stream, no matter what device you're on, and see all of the chat, that's pretty good. So that's probably where we're headed with all of the streams for
That's interesting.
for Operation Puppet and Pixels and Puppets. So there we go. That is the neat thing. So I always wanted to say thank you to Mr. Funky Dude for that stuff. I'll tag him on Mastodon.
Thank you, Mr. Funky Dude.
Thank you, Mr. Funky Dude. Very popular Owncast streamer doing a new series, FYI. If you follow my Mastodon account, I'll repost it, boost it, whatever we're calling it on Mastodon. Retoot. Nobody calls it. It's not officially Toot anymore, but whatever. Everybody calls it Toot anyway.
Yeah.
Called the Fediverse Fireside Chats, which is an Owncast server where they're talking to different
nice.
people who make quote unquote content for the Fediverse, and Mr. Funky Dude is doing one tomorrow night, I believe. So it's very, very nice. It's nice. There's nice things online, everybody.
Sometimes you gotta look for them, but they are there.
They are there. Okay, I think that'll probably do it for Gizmo Town.
It's true.
We are going to take another quick break, and we will be back with Pixels and Tokens.
Video games.
Board games.
Video games.
Tabletop role-playing games.
Video games.
And now for Pixels and Tokens, where we talk about all kinds of gaming.
But mostly video games.
Welcome to Pixels and Tokens, where we talk about gaming against all odds.
Yes.
The Simpsons, I honestly
The
have
Sims
no idea.
1 and 2 have been re-released and put up on Steam, whatever EA calls their thing, Origin. And I think Epic Games
used to be Origin. I don't know if it still is.
I think it's still Origin.
All right.
But it is
Presumably it was there before, though.
No. 1 and 2 have been kind of lost digitally.
Oh, 1 and 2. Okay, right.
So they are not a remaster. They are not a remake. They are literally, they recompiled them to run under Windows 10 and 11. All the bugs that existed in 1 are still in 1. But they do include, 1 includes all of the DLC except for the IKEA sponsored one. And I'm assuming it's because of rights issues.
Licensing, yeah.
But there is a GitHub apparently where you can just re-add the content to it. Like it's there, they've just hidden it or something. And 2 is all the DLC, and then 2 is supposed to run pretty good. So 1 You can run it at 4K if you like every other frame. Apparently, one just does not support resolutions over 1080p.
I mean, no kidding.
Physically, the engine screams. But
what
running
even
it
are these numbers?
But running it at 1080p is fine. It runs smooth. The longer you run it, the more likely it's going to crash, which I believe was a known problem with The Sims 1.
That's just how software works.
And 2 will run at 4K fine. It's got all the DLCs. Apparently, it's the more stable of the two. And it works really well, apparently. They run on the Steam Deck real good. If you've ever wanted to play portable, like the touchpads, there's a community layout that makes it very playable on the Steam Deck. So it's just very interesting that they chose. I think it's because it's the X anniversary of The Sims, like 25 or 30 or something. And The Sims 1 and 2 basically haven't existed outside of the initial discs they sold, which only run under Windows XP up to Windows 7.
Gotcha.
You have to jump, like there were websites that would be the equivalent of 12 to 13 pages long of how to make them run under Windows 10 and 11. And it was generally gambling a lot of times. So this one, you will install it and it will fire up. It may not fire up for more than a couple hours for Sims 1, but like they will run. So this is the first time they have been available. So Sims 2 you could get a digital copy from Origin within a certain window if you had bought the original disc, but it's exactly the same as what you would have got on the disc and wouldn't run under Windows 10 anyway. So This is really kind of the first time you can get on a digital platform The Sims 1 and 2 to play on modern PCs.
I see.
So I mean, that's great. You can create the Operation Puppet House again. On stream.
What was that? What is the current Sims?
4.
4?
Yes.
Okay, that's
2 is agreed upon by many people as the best version of The Sims.
Is the peak?
Not the peak, but it was just there was the crap you had to go through versus the stuff you wanted to do. Like there was very low barrier of entry to do interesting stuff, whereas The Sims 4, it requires 300 expansion packs and $300 to get the things you want to do.
That's the thing we did the Operation Sim.
I think we did it. I think we did it in 3.
Was it 3?
It might have been 3.
I don't even remember.
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago.
But you could create Frankie and the Oracle. You do Operation Puppet in The Sims and do a stream of it in The Sims 2.
That'll be super entertaining.
As long
as we do it with the VTuber Frankie, then
that's right.
You know,
what am I doing? Why am I making an egg and then throwing it out? This seems incredibly wasteful.
Did we clear this with anybody? I'm not sure we did.
Did the Oracle just pee on the floor and leave it? This seems on brand.
This is totally like real life. You wouldn't believe what I got to put up with every day.
I am telling you, it writes itself.
It really does.
So I mean, it's a fun thing. I'm glad it's there because it's been basically you had to buy a DVD copy.
We're always talking about the need for game preservation.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
this is one of the first times I think EA has done a non-remaster. Like like Dead Space, they had to remaster it and re-release it. And when you remaster something, it's never the same.
Yeah,
they have to change stuff because things have been dragged forward, kicking and screaming into the current year, and people aren't used to using this button for a thing.
Yep.
So it's interesting that it's just a basic recompilation of the project to work under modern targets.
They probably went like, wow, we could make a couple of bucks out of this. How hard would this be?
It's the anniversary. Now is when you're going to shift the units. You can get both of them plus some, like a couple of DLC for 4 for some reason for like $40.
All right.
So it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Cool. All right. We've got 2 more things in the docket, and they're both me.
No.
Okay.
I could throw something in between them.
Okay, please do.
Okay.
Because my voice is going to give out before we're done this. But this should be a relatively quick one. So, as we talked about last time, the new Diablo 4 season launched. Mm-hmm. And I at first, I was not feeling it.
Yeah.
I didn't really bounce off of it, but it exposed an Achilles heel in my experience of Diablo 4.
What was it? Was it subclass fatigue?
It's kind of. It is just that, like, the seasonal model as they have implemented it. I because I do like a very specific kind of character. I always want to play that character in whatever season it is, and just the thought of having to level all over again and there being very little actual difference between that was like, oh, this again, right? It was just like literally going to Icy Veins and following the same build guide I followed for the past 4 seasons. It was just like, and because, as we will get onto later, I have this new shiny toy in Warframe, it was like, I would much rather be doing this than that. Now, we will kind of mix the pot here a little bit because they are relevant. But with my Warframe journey, I would think it's safe to say that the honeymoon is over and that I've kind of hit a cruise control point with Warframe, right? It's like I am now confident. I'm in it. I know I like it. I know I'm going to play it for a long time.
Most of the story content has been either done or in the process of being done.
I literally have one quest left, and it's the fucking K Drive thing, and I cannot tell you. I will never be finished this quest. Never.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Yes. If I ever think that I'm at a point where I can do this, I will stream it and we will watch it live because it will be a miracle that I will ever be finished this quest. But anyway, so because I've hit that kind of like, I hit a nice point with Warframe. I've hit like just all right, I'm confident now. I know what I need to know.
You log in, you do the stuff you want to do, and then you get the buzz, and you log out.
Exactly. Good. I'm like, I know. I've got the excitement is over, but now I'm just like, I'm in it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's cool. I like that. But because of that, it's nice to have a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Because
100%.
Sometimes, because Warframe is so unbelievably grindy, it really, really is. And I like that. But you can get a little bogged down.
Yeah.
And because of that, nice to have a palate cleanser. So I kind of went back and started looking at Diablo 4 again as my palate cleanser, and I gotta say, I think it's kind of working.
Nice.
Now, the reason I kind of got a bad taste in my mouth with Diablo 4 was the last time that you and I played, and you and Andrew and Matt played. I hadn't played for a while.
Yeah, you had gotten on the Warframe train hard, and you were a little under-leveled for the content we were running.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a problem because like I just kept dying. And it was, I know you guys said it wasn't a problem, but I still felt...
Well, it's not your fault because it was in content where... like 2 torments prior would have been where we should have been, and we were trying to get you the max the max rank for the thing because it was going away soon.
So this is one of the, and this is an old MMO problem of like your friends out level you, so now what are you gonna do? Well, the thing is, like, we as a group are now so out of sync with all this stuff that it kind of doesn't matter anymore. And I kind of just got into like, you know what, I'm not trying to keep up with, Jamie and Andrew anymore. It doesn't, that's boat has sailed, whatever. We'll figure it out or something. That's fine. Just do your thing. Just do your thing. Find where your level is and stick to that. That is the mentality I kind of got into with Diablo 4, and I'm pleased to say it's working. So I'm now, at long last, starting to go through the current season of Diablo 4.
Have you switched up your class?
I haven't. I've stuck with Rogue, but I'm now enjoying it because I'm like, you know what? I'm not it. And again, this is one of the good points of the Warframe mentality. As soon as you realize it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? As soon as you go, I'm not trying to get to a point. I'm just in it for the flow state. I'm just in it for the experience.
I mean, if we can get all the ducks in a row and we want to do a stream or something, we can either run at whoever's level, like just figure out where the comfort point would be, or everyone pick a class they haven't run in a while and start new characters.
For
and
sure.
we get together and we'll start, going through the thing as, outside of our comfort zones and do that for a stream. So I think that would be fun.
I like that a lot.
And
actually.
that
there's a couple of Diablo classes I've never played.
Like this season is the first time I played a Diablo or a Barbarian since Diablo 4 launched. Like I haven't played one. But I think it'd be fun to have a character we could set aside, like that's not our main, that we could go and do like a stream on, do 2 hours with, you're playing a druid and I'm playing like the sorceress for the first time in like 5 seasons.
Yeah.
And just, get, some time in on another class. And I think that'd be fun because, it's a little fish out of water. You're not used to, the current face roll meta.
Whatever the meta is. Yeah, exactly.
You get to kind of feel out a different class too, because some of the druid, some of the druid builds are ridiculous once you've scaled it up. So
I started looking at following on to the Warframe quote unquote meta. Mm-hmm. I've actually started watching some Diablo 4 build guides on video on YouTube. And mercifully, thankfully, coincidentally, my absolute favorite build of all time is currently back.
Excellent.
In the meta. So it's the Twisting Blades.
I remember that one from the first Diablo season.
That I just hooked into that, and that's all I want to do now.
It was such a good massive damage build, and you were very mobile, and you're basically kiting the knives all over.
And this is the other thing. It's like, because as we talked about before, it's not, for me, it's not just about the numbers.
It's about your head canon for the character.
It's about the character.
Yeah.
And that so suits the character that I got in my head that it's just, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And thankfully that's now a very strong build in this season. So now I'm kind of working towards that. So I'm playing off the 2 games right now. I'm kind of like bouncing between them, and it's nice because I'm not getting tired of either. And I'm able to just kind of jump between them, and it's in a nice place right now.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That is a healthy mental position.
Absolutely.
To be in, so I'm pleased.
And then my intermediate point between your 2 points is I've kind of come across my non-standard palate cleanser game.
All right.
And it's Indiana Jones: The Great Circle. Like, you'd think it's a one and done. I started a completely new run knowing systems now. Like, the first time through, I basically punched everything and blocked never. And it would run into some loops where I'd go in, I'd do something, and then I would end up, getting knocked back to the checkpoint, which is usually not very far away, and then figure out how to do it more stealthily. Now that I know of the block and retaliate system,
you're getting into a Souls-like.
I am making piles of fascists. Like, I'll walk into an area and I'll just be like, let's throw down. And it'll just be I think I sent a picture to my family. I should throw it in the Discord, but it was just this tent full of Nazis just in a giant pile. And but knowing the systems, and also my obsessive need to 100% it, because of a bug that they're currently working on patching. My first playthrough, I couldn't complete a thing because a character gets into a bug state once you finish the main story. So this time I started a brand new playthrough. And I am doing 100% all the way up to the end. And it is so good. Just going through these areas again, I thought, I'd be sick of this area. And I keep going back to previous areas just to experience them again. I just love I don't want to talk about the places because it's this game goes places, and there are some set piece scenes that would make a movie that you couldn't even believe. Like, it's so well realized, so well done. It's a movie that I'm playing, and it keeps surprising me, even though I've played it once already, with these moments where you come around a corner and you see a thing and it's like, shit, like, I wish movies could do this because this is insane. And it's just the combination of just Troy Baker as Indy, the supporting characters, which are all, you know how sometimes you're in a game and you're with the cardboard cutout of a woman and you're just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
The people around you in this game are like, it could be John Rhys Davies and it could be Karen Allen. Like, they are not people playing a character. They are that character. It's Sala. It's Marion. It's not those characters, but it's like they are the thing instead of somebody portraying the thing.
Right.
Which is the difference between like a movie that you can lose yourself in and a movie that you watch and you're like, yeah, that was fine. But it was Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage in a different situation.
Look, he's Dracula now. Whatever.
So it's that. It's very much like I could watch Raiders of the Lost Ark 1,000 times and I will always be lost in that movie because it is such a good visual story. This is this game. And there's a DLC coming out at some point. I think I might start another playthrough before it comes out just because I'm getting close to the end at this point. But it is, I think I am one more thing off of all the achievements and 100% in the game. And it's, nice. I'm kind of dreading it because I just want to play it forever.
Sure.
It's just this great, it's beat after beat. Everything is so well realized in it that I don't want to put it down because I don't want it to be over. Mm-hmm. And I am just loving it.
Excellent.
And it's like I went hard on Diablo and I'm up at like 160 Paragon right now. And I'm like, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to do this week with Indiana Jones, and then I'm going to go back into Diablo and spend some more time because I want to. I need to refine my build. I am really good in Torment 1, but Torment 2 is too much of a jump. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to figure out where the flat spots are. I think it might be a couple more Paragon nodes that I need to get to really kind of tie the build together.
Right.
And then start working on storming up different Paragon levels to, or not Paragon, Torment levels to get the better gear. But I've noticed a marked improvement in gear quality drops. Like even in Torment 1, I'm getting a lot more 2 and 3 star drops than I used to in Torment 1. And I have gotten a lot more mythics. Like just running.
You were posting on the Discord about this.
Just running the trash bosses before Duriel and Dendariel, the two ones that they're more likely to give you. I've gotten 2 of my build mythics, ancient, like single star ancient, from them. Just grinding them because I have way too many mats and I just want to bring it down. So I think they've done a good job tweaking things in the players' favor. Because last season it was a grind to get any mythics, and then it was grinding up the mythics to make new mythics that met your thing, and it was this has been a lot friendlier, like it less having to really spend time trying to get stuff and more just getting stuff organically through going up through levels.
I think one of the things that made me kind of go was because I was kind of wearying of the seasonal thing. I had always kind of hoped that there would be a point to having a character in the Eternal Realm.
Yeah.
Honestly, there really isn't.
No, I've been deleting most of them. I kept my one from last season because I really like the build, but I haven't.
You know what? There's no point because it's changed again. Like you literally will not have your build when you go in. It will be like, oh, you can boost this character for this set thing, and that's it. That is a real kind of bummer because, like, I went in going, okay, at least if I've got, and this is, I'm sorry to make the comparison again, but with Warframe, you hear a lot about people in the Warframe community, particularly doing build guides, talking about investment.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to invest, and it's usually a particular resource into this build.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there very much is that mentality in Warframe that, like, this is, yeah, you're spending time on this, but it's to an end.
Yeah.
Right. And my problem, and this is still a problem, I think, with Diablo 4, is that it feels like the season comes to an end and all of the time you spent on that character just gets thrown in the trash. Right?
It feels like Diablo 3 to me. Like when a
Yeah.
new season Diablo 3 started, you created a new character, but then at the end of it, we weren't really touching the eternal characters at all.
You're absolutely right. It is exactly the same as Diablo 3. And it didn't really bug me then.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I guess maybe because I'm in this Warframe mindset, it's kind of bugging me now because it's like, well, why am I even doing this then? Right?
I'm going
Like,
to keep one eternal for like future expansion packs because you
Right.
want an eternal character to run that stuff to unlock it for season stuff.
right.
But I'm not really spending much thought on the eternal realm right
Like
now.
I just to see, I took
Yeah.
one of my old characters and I popped into the Eternal Realm, and it was a fucking ghost town.
Yeah.
Like, just nobody around. It felt like a dead MMO. It was
Yeah.
just like, nope, not happening.
Yeah, no, it's kind of the, you go here for the X pack to get everything unlocked, to get through that story, and then you go to the season where the actual,
Yeah.
evolving content is.
So it was a bit of a bummer, but because I've kind of got past that into the
Yeah.
flow state of it,
Yeah.
it's good. Again, we'll see if that lasts.
Yeah.
But, we'll see.
Absolutely.
Again, you kind of got to have a bit more of a disposable mentality. And the reason that they want it like this is obvious because, like, the season pass is where they make their money.
Yeah.
Right? Like, clearly this is a monetization thing. They don't want to necessarily have you be playing in the Eternal Realm because where's the monetization
Yeah.
there, right? If you can just play on this forever, how?
Well,
are
I mean,
gonna
they
make-
still have the cosmetic store.
yeah.
I mean, they generally their designs are on point. I've just never really, I need that.
You know what? Here's the thing. I'm telling you, Blizzard, why the fuck is there not just a standard old, like, witches/wizard hat? Why isn't there that? There was in Diablo 3.
Yeah.
You give me that, I will play a sorcerer, no problem. I need to make, like, Granny Weatherwax or Rincewind.
Or Rincewind,
Give me the
yes.
fucking conical pointy hat. How hard is that? It's right there.
Maybe we'll get a season of the Wizard.
2 Zs.
Yes.
That's the important part. All right, are we ready to go?
I'm good. I've talked about Indiana Jones again, and I'm feeling good.
Put it in the show notes because I'm not gonna, remember. Okay, I'm gonna do this slightly out of order for what they are in the show notes, but there's a reason. So it looks like I'm going to TennoCon.
Nice.
The tickets went on sale today, and that's it for those of you who don't know. And if you're listening to this far in the podcast, you probably do. But yes, this is the annual convention for the single game Warframe, which literally sold out in minutes. My God, what even is this? Anyway, in London, Ontario, this is the other thing. Like other, like studios will have, there's like BlizzCon and stuff, but so they have to move around, or it's for multiple games, or there's always something. No, this is a single game, and everybody has to come to London, Ontario. I got to tell you, folks, no shade to the nice folks of London, Ontario. It ain't nowhere.
It's out of the way.
It is a bit out of the way. And yet people from all over the world come to fucking London, Ontario to go to TennoCon.
Yep.
For this one specific game. That's kind of wild.
It's pretty great.
So this is the first. I've got a motel reservation. I haven't paid for it yet.
I mean, that's the nice part about motel reservations
Yeah.
is they're in the future.
It's literally the closest that I could get to the venue, with also being something that I could potentially afford.
Yeah.
But the tickets went on sale today. Sold out in minutes. I thankfully got a standard ticket with like the extra add-on with like the collector's t-shirt and all that stuff. I was gonna go for VIP and they were just gone.
Yeah,
just
no, it's
boom gone.
It's rough.
It was wild. Like people in my clan were like, I 5 minutes I hesitated and now I can't get a ticket. Like they were gone in no time.
This is like me getting D23 tickets. It's it's you know, you're at the internet god's whim.
So it's wild because one of the things that they're doing this year that they haven't done in previous years is not only is it going to be at the like RBC Convention Center or whatever where it always is, but they've also rented like the biggest arena, like auditorium
to do the presentations in and whatnot.
No, there's going to be a concert.
Oh, amazing!
There's going to be a music concert
of Warcraft music,
of Warframe,
or Warframe
Thank
music.
You.
Yes,
it's okay. It's going to be a full.
That's amazing.
Like arenas where like large bands and shit play. Like this is the largest arena in London, Ontario. They have rented out, and they have now sold out.
That's fantastic.
This thing is going to be full of people. So what we're going to talk about today is the music in Warframe,
which runs the gamut.
It really kind of does.
You wouldn't expect a finger quotes live service game to have both epic orchestral scores and 9 Inch Nails equivalent industrial music.
So like everything else in Warframe, they take the thing that you expect them to do, which everybody else does, and they just go, what if we did this? And
Chain gang shanties.
So that's the first thing we're going to talk about. So there's 2 tracks particularly I want to talk about.
Yes.
In Warframe. And the first one, of course, is the one that everybody knows, and it is so good it's taken on a life outside of Warframe.
I mean, people that don't know anything about Warframe know We All Lift.
Yep. So this is We All Lift. I forgot to write down the name of the composer. Jamie, could you do some fact-checking live and look up who composed We All Lift, please, because we have to give them credit. It is a song that gets introduced, and this is the funny part. When you're playing Warframe, you say as a new player, you log in, you create your character, you pick a starter frame, you go through, and you spend quite a while.
Keith Power,
thank you, wrote We All Lift. Now, so you could spend upwards. You got something else?
No.
Okay, good. You look like you did. You could spend upwards of like 20 hours in this game, right?
Yes.
Like going through this doesn't unlock until you hit, you go through the star chart. There's several nodes on Earth, which is where you start. Then you get to Venus. Venus is the next planet. And on Venus is the Orbalis, which is the open world area on Venus. And Fortuna is the main city on Venus. And when you unlock the node to go to Venus, which again, you could be 20, you could be 40 hours, you could be 80 hours into the game by this point.
Well, I mean, if you played a lot before the thing was added to the game, you could be hundreds of hours in the game.
There's no limit. There's no upper limit to how long you could be before you hit this point. But you hit this point, and suddenly you get a cutscene.
Oh.
And this cutscene is like, it's so epic. It's hard to put into words, but it is framed around this song called We All Lift. Now, what I want to talk about is the history of the style of music that it is, because this is something I haven't seen anybody else really talk about, and because just me being who I am and being interested in the things I am interested in, I have a kind of perspective on this.
Both the content and the
form.
Well, not even the form, but the what they give you via subtitles.
Yeah.
It's a, what is the official phrase of Fortuna? It is a death
internment colony.
Debt internment colony. It is a chain gang song.
Yeah.
It is people literally chained to this planet having to work, and this is what they sing to get them through the day.
So in the late 1800s, and here we go, folks. It's a history lesson with Kevin.
This is after we've talked about alien conspiracy theories and cryptids.
You know, we're all over the map.
That's right.
This is why you listen to this podcast.
This is why you tune in. You never know what you're going to get.
You don't know what the fuck's going on.
Oh, and I also wanted to do a deep dive on what raves are.
Yep. No, this is, this is the value
That's right.
of the Operation Puppet podcast. So in the late 1800s, the railroads were starting to be implemented in the States. And several things happened. So this is just past the abolition of slavery.
Yep.
And because of that, and as the railroads went down, so several sort of different types of people were working on the railroads.
They had all your disposable people.
It's true.
Immigrants, prisoners.
Mostly immigrants.
Yes.
So the railroads themselves was mostly immigrants.
Yep.
A lot of them Chinese and Irish.
Yes.
A lot of Mexicans as well as you went further south. But yeah, literally immigrants built the infrastructure of the United States of
If
America.
something had to be blown up, it was usually an immigrant that
Yeah.
was getting sent in there with dynamite.
So reflect on that.
Yeah.
Won't you? Anyway, but also a lot of the people who were working on the railroads themselves were recently freed enslaved people.
Yes.
Now, alongside the railroads,
This is where you get like John Henry's A Steel Driving Man.
exactly, there was a lot of folk music
Yes.
that went into this.
But he was a freed slave who would drive the gunpowder down boreholes to blow up rock to make way for the trains.
But this is the other side of it was alongside the railroad. There was a lot of road building,
a lot
that
of
had
stakes to be driven.
that had to be done because when you get a new railroad into a town, then you have to have ways for the people to get from the railway
To get
station
goods there.
to anywhere.
Yep.
So you had to do a lot of road building, and almost all of the road building in the southern United States was done by chain gangs.
Yep.
Which were, and I'm sorry to say, to this day, still largely people of color.
Yep.
Who have been
Incarcerated for whatever reason.
Yeah, they're prisoners who have been forced into hard labor. This is what they do.
For basically no money. I think it was for no money.
It's no
it was
money.
part of their sentence at that point in time.
It's hard labor. This is what they do. And they literally take sledgehammers and break rocks.
Yep.
That's what they do.
Yep.
There's a whole, I could go on a rant here, but I'm going to try and keep it lightish.
But they would literally sing spirituals and other songs about their plight.
But there's a particular reason why, both on the railroad working and on the road building, that they did this.
Because,
so, of course, the indigenous music of the black population of this time was the blues.
Yep.
And there's a particular form of the blues that grew up around these chain gangs and work gangs on the railroads that had a very particular cadence. And what the cadence was as you're standing around, say, a railroad tie or a big old boulder that you got to break up, you're swinging a sledgehammer. There's probably 3 or 4 of you standing around in a circle doing this.
Yep.
You need to keep in sync.
And you stagger the hits.
Yes.
Every other person hits on certain beats, as it were.
Exactly. And because of that, a very particular form of the blues grew up that was exactly this cadence. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.
Very much like a marching song.
Exactly. And it was 4/4 time.
Yeah.
And so this matches the 12-bar blues perfectly. And because the 12-bar blues were already an established form of the black population in America, this is what the music became that they brought with them. And this was literally a safety measure, because if you miss time, if you miss swing your sledgehammer, you could easily deeply injure or kill somebody.
And you would, a lot of times, emphasis on when a hammer was striking.
Yeah.
Like, da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. And
so that way you could keep in sync with every other person on your team whoever was going to swing their hammer, you're 1, I'm 2, you're 3, you're 4.
Yeah.
And you just do it. This is the style of music that grew up. This is what we all lived with.
It's cold, the air and water flowing. Hard, the land we call our home. Push to keep the dark from coming. Feel the weight of what we owe.
Now, when you know the lore of Warframe, and the fact that this is the style of music that you see, and so what you see is like people singing this song, but they're kind of weird people.
They are very much robot heads and arms and...
So all of the adults have at least robot heads, sometimes more, sometimes robot limbs, but all of the children don't for some reason. So this is a group of people called the Solaris.
Mm-hmm.
And the Solaris are basically what we would think of as a caste.
They're deep in debt to the corpus.
These are the people who are in debt to the corpus. The corpus are basically like your standard megacorp.
Well, they're space capitalists.
They're space capitalists, but pushed to the point of religion, where it's literally like they talk about the sacred shareholders.
Well, the CEO had disappeared, and now it's a family affair, and
we could get into a whole thing with Parvos Granum and the whole...
It is a whole thing.
There is a whole thing. And in fact, it actually relates to the next thing. But, so this is a group of people who, they are literally born into debt.
Mm-hmm.
Venus, Fortuna on Venus is the city where they live, and they are working the planet to extract valuable ores and things,
methane and whatever else.
The reason that some of their body parts are replaced with robotic body parts is because of the harshness of the Venusian environment. You can't work in there without being subject to these forces. That it is within your best interest to have your body parts
but
replaced.
Also sometimes it's the corpus taking a literal arm and a leg.
Well, this is that
first vendor you run into when he gets into trouble.
Yep.
They literally take some of his limbs.
So this is the great lie of this is how they keep the people in order, is that there is a kind of myth that if you work hard enough,
you will come out from under your debt.
You will come out from under your debt, but that's not possible. As you work, you need to get more augment.
A rigged system.
You know, it's almost like it's relevant to today.
Ugh.
People born into debt who would have heard of such a thing. This is what the line about the Song of Sons and Daughters, hide the heart of who we are. This is what that's about.
Yep. Making peace to build a future, strong united until we fall.
They literally sing about working to death.
Yes.
Like that's what this is. And they are an entire cast of people who are subject to this oppression.
Well, unreasonable oppression, yes.
Yeah. But I mean, it's such a scathing, insightful indictment of capitalism.
But in that initial cutscene, everyone is literally hitting things with hammers, future hammers, space hammers in the beat of a Chain Gang song. Like the percussion in the song is literally people working.
So when you know the lore, and you know the history of the music that is being presented to you, how deeply impactful is that?
It is incredible. Just the fact that they show you a good portion of the population. They pan through a bunch of people before they tell you you're on Fortuna, the debt internment company.
That's the final. The final screen, like after just before your Warframe drops in, is Fortuna debt internment colony. Eventually gets revealed. It's unbelievably well done.
But I mean, it's even darker once you get up to the reputation level with them, and you know what is actually going on with them, and they are literally holding stuff back from the corpus to keep themselves safe. Like it is I don't know who came up with the Solari. I don't know who decided this is the note we're going to do this expansion on, but it is incredibly impactful.
Here's the thing I didn't know until recently. The Solaris, the pseudo robot people who are this cast, their heads.
Yes. I know where they are. Yeah, this is what I was hinting at. They're keeping something back.
They're literally in their chest cavity. That's the very first augment.
Yep.
This is why all of the adults have robot heads. Their human heads are in their chest cavities, and I don't know how to do it. There is a way where you could have it so their chest thing is open.
That's when you max out the rep.
Is it?
Rep with them. They will actually, when you talk to them, their chest will open up, and you can see their faces inside their chests.
So yeah, the human heads are in their chest cavities.
That's I was hinting at that with the max rep, and they were holding stuff back from the corpus because they don't want to lose. They don't want to lose their heads.
Yeah, because that's the biggest punishment of all.
And so the first thing they do is literally relocate their heads to a secure place, and they don't tell anyone about it. Like it's a thing they do to keep themselves, at least some of themselves, to themselves, because the corpus can take everything else.
Digital extremes, what the fuck?
It is a hell of a thing. The whole run through Fortuna and on the planet and everything. It is a lot, and you're basically Robin Hood for these people, trying to get them out from under the what is Vecchio?
No, it's
somebody Anyo.
Oh God, it's on the tip of my brain. Yeah,
but trying to
there
get
is
them,
a very particular corpus agent who's
in charge of Fortuna. Nefeo. He's
fuck you, Nefeo.
It's everything you're doing trying to get these people out from underneath. But like literally, the first thing you see is that guy who helps you and gets you in contact with the underground.
Legs
Literally has his legs removed, and they have to the bolt on because he got fingered for telling you something, and they took his legs. Literally the corpus came and took his legs.
Yep.
And now he sells robot chickens. But I mean that's your intro to this world. The first someone getting their flesh repossessed.
The first character you see in that song is Yutiko. She's the main person who gives out the bounties. Who is awesome.
Yes.
Oh, so one of the longest grinds in the game is the rep for Vox Solaris, which is the rep for Venus. And I'm like, every time I do, so I haven't maxed out my rep yet. And so I'm getting there.
That's why you haven't seen the thing.
So I haven't seen. I've seen cutscenes, and I'm like, how was this a beta build or something? Like, what did they? No. Oh, okay. Now I get it.
Yeah.
Spoilers. But every time I go and do bounties on Venus, I'm like, no problem.
Yeah.
I am not. People complain about the length of the grind. I'm like, I will help.
I think it's all in service to the story. Like these people are incredibly choosy. They're literally chattel, and they don't want to let anyone in that doesn't do the work. And having to go and do literally hundreds of hours of grind to get the rep makes sense, because this is not a group of people that are open and trusting.
Nope.
This is a group of people that want to keep their head down and get out from under the debt, except they can't.
And the fact that they all talk in Cockney is just somehow so perfect. It's just like, you get it.
The whole thing is so well done. But the fact that the song is a undeniable banger is so good.
Yep.
Like, all I have to do is whistle the first 4 notes and Kevin is done for the night.
Last podcast, Jamie played it for Andrew.
Yep.
10 minutes later, he turns around and goes, why is the song stuck in my fucking head now?
He had just heard it. It's It's both an earworm. It's the lyrics are fantastic. I love the end of the first line. I feel the weight of what we owe. Like it's baked into the song, what it's about. And it's just so well done. Just the whistling in it too makes it so you can bring this up whenever you want just by whistling. And just such a good job.
So here's where I'm going to wrap it around, because you know what's going to happen at TennoCon.
Oh,
at the concert.
You're gonna hear it live.
There's going to be thousands of people
singing
in this. They can't not do We All Lift live,
and we all lift.
Thousands of people raising their voices.
And we all lift together.
Dear God, I will lose my shit.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the only thing that could be better is that they got Tom Waits out today.
You know, that is my one thing. I really need a Tom Waits cover of We All Lift.
It's supremely his shit, and he doesn't even know it exists.
True.
But I mean, it's on the internet, which is the problem.
Yes. So the other track, there is another one. There's actually a lot. There's a lot of music in Warframe, and it's all very, very good.
They do a good job.
And this one took me totally by surprise. I was not prepared for this. There is a side quest called Call, I think it is, of the Tempestiari. You can check for me.
Let me just take a look.
It's to unlock the Warframe Revenant. Sevagoth. Not Revenant, Sevagoth.
Call of what?
Call of the Tempestiari. It's 2 eyes. I believe that's what it's called. At any rate, it doesn't really matter. The point is, it's a side quest. It's actually completely optional, and it's just to unlock a specific Warframe Sevagoth. And the Warframe Sevagoth is a really neat, cool backstory that's involved with a lot of the Railjack stuff.
Yep.
And it's basically a ghost ship, but it's a ghost spaceship. And Sevagoth is like the captain of this ghost spaceship. There's a lot of lore in there. Of course there is, because it's Warframe. But when you get down to the end fight, and all this quest is just to unlock the blueprints for this one specific Warframe. So you get down to the point where it's an end fight, and it's a fight between like the Corpus, we've just talked about a whole lot, and Sevagoth. And the thing is, like, this legendary ship has come back from the void, which is this sort of mystical realm that it can basically...
They were saying this was one of the first things that had Empyrean missions.
Right. So it comes back, and there's like this mythical ship that's been missing for, decades from the old war is suddenly coming back and troubling Corpus ships and what's going on. And so with this one particular Corpus agent gets sent to try and deal with this. And through various means, you, as the Tenno, call the ship back into existence, and the Warframe, who is in charge of the ship, who is this basically ghost captain of this ghost ship, get into a final confrontation with the Corpus. That's the whole deal. Now, it could end in your bog standard, video gamey boss fight.
Yeah.
But what happens instead, and this, again, just like off guard. I had no idea this was coming. So Sevagoth, the Warframe, has a particular skill that he kind of transforms into a spirit mode, where he's this kind of ghostly apparition.
Similar to Limbo?
Kind of, yeah. He there's this kind of like spirit thing he can send out when he kind of transforms into that. But what happens is you get basically blown into the void.
Oh, wow.
Right? And you've got to deal with these Corpus phantoms that are in the void. So you get shot into this featureless void, like literally void. There's nothing around. There's mist, and there's water on the ground that just reflects everything. So it's very much like, I don't know, in Assassin's Creed, there's that kind of midpoint where you're like, it's like that. It's like that state.
When you're in between the... Animus and being in the memory. Yeah,
exactly. So there's like this thin layer of water on the ground that's just reflecting everything, and you're this ghostly form, and all of these Corpus phantoms start flying in at you, and all you have is a melee attack. You don't have any weapons. And then this song starts playing. And it's this like Irish folk song sea shanty.
Is it called Sleeping in the Cold Below?
It is called Sleeping in the Cold Below.
You can blame Keith Power for this as well.
Thank you, Keith Power, because dear God, what could have easily been a bog standard video game boss fight becomes like this wild, elegant dance. You start like, because you can only melee attack them.
Yeah.
So they're flying in at you as this Irish sea shanty is playing, and you're flailing around at them, and it's a dance.
Yeah.
It's a folk dance.
That's fantastic.
I was like, what the fuck is this? How is this even possible after you do like,
this whole quest?
Yeah, and it's for nothing. You could miss it.
They do a good job of building these things. Like you start off on a mission and you do a thing, and then there's the follow up, and then they build up to these great set pieces. And like you said, it could just be, a room full of corpus run at you and you shoot them.
Yeah.
Or it could be this incredibly artistic void-based melee fight to an Irish sea shanty.
And it's like the fight doesn't end until the song ends. So you're almost timing it to the rhythm of the song.
Yeah.
It is beautiful and elegant.
Again, almost like the Chain Gang theme on We All Live Together. It's really great how they can use this custom music like that and use it to augment these set pieces that, it would be cool killing corpus in a void just in general with, your generic, killing corpus music. But to come up with a bespoke piece to go on top of it, to time the fight it's really a interesting use of both the music and your game.
Yeah.
A lot of people wouldn't choose to do something like that.
This is the thing that's magic about Warframe, is the fact that they can just go, what if we did this weird thing and try it? And sometimes, it works, sometimes it doesn't. But when it does, wow, it's so special and unique. That is the thing. And it's like, so I wanted to emphasize that.
Yes.
There's tons. The latest expansion, Warframe 1999, is the most music they've ever made for it. This is a lot of, I'm sure, with the concert I'm going to experience is going to be this.
But Sleeping in the Cold Below could be in it.
It's got to be. How could they not? Wow. Just so good.
Just for the listeners, there's a website called genius.com, that does annotation on lyrics where people add context to lyrics on different songs.
Oh, yeah.
And it's great for some songs where, maybe you don't get the subtext of Running Up That Hill and you need to figure it out. We All Lift is on there, and they for the line "Feel the Weight of What We Owe," they say the song is being sung by the Solaris, the people who work for Nefanyo and Fortuna. They're slaves controlled by Nefanyo through debt, hence why they feel the weight of their debt as they work. So they break down the song via lyrics and then give you context to how those lyrics are in the game. So if you wanted to go through it kind of line by line where they've added these contextual points, it kind of explains why the song is the way it is. So just look up on Genius.
Drop a link in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll grab the link here.
Excellent.
But it's a fairly nice site just for going through, and sometimes you don't catch why this line might be important to the person who's singing it and things like that. So,
well, it's like in The Cold Below, some of the lyrics are like, there's a man on high with the devil in his eye and a golden hand, I'm told. That's Parvus Granum, right? Would you lay me down under Granum crown? That's the coins that are the currency of the corpus. There's so much. It's so well thought out that it's really impressive. But anyway, so there we go. I'm probably going to TennoCon and gonna lose my shit in a fucking concert.
it'll be good times.
There we go. Shout out to Spectrum Syndicate, who I'm going to be hooking up with at TennoCon.
That should be really fun. I'm really excited for you to see
we will
the
see
group.
What goes on. So yeah, there we go. That will do it. I think we got through the thing.
We did the thing, in a good amount of
decent-ish
time. Like for a thin document, it went to a good amount of time.
It's true. All right. So thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Andrew, wherever you are.
And thank you all who listen, and also Sloot, who should be going to that concert.
Shout out Sloot. So anyway, operationpuppet.com for all the links. Join the Discord, and as always, we will see you next time. You have been listening to Pixels and Puppets, the Operation Puppet podcast. Visit www.operationpuppet.com for all our links. Tell your friends, give us a rating wherever you get your podcasts, and join us again, because nothing is more entertaining than aging nerds giving their opinions on the internet.